So we're seeing a shit ton of problems with American education. It's not real education, right? The only education is that your coercion and violence and threats of lowering your grades will make you into a slave. That's the main lesson right there. You're not getting any contacts, you're not getting networking in, and you're not learning real information that's going to help you in life. It's a big fraud, it's total bullshit, and it almost seems like the point is to socialize everybody to be a bunch of conformists so they don't ever question authority and don't ever realize how badly they're getting fucked by the government, which threw them overboard several fucking years ago. And that's George Carlin. Education will never get better, never get any better, because the politicians don't want you to be educated. They want you to be just smart enough to run the machines and the paperwork, but never to complain about the vanishing pension that goes, you know, when you go to collect it, the lower wages, the lack of benefits, and all the horse shit. So accept all the horse shit and just be smart enough to be able to run the machines and shit, but don't be smart enough to organize into a strike or to demand anything more than what you're actually getting. And so, you know, that's where we're at with our education system. Obama says quality teachers. So with the Freedom Skool, I will have to try to figure out how to pay for quality teachers to be able to teach at the Freedom Skool. Which, if the JCPS picks me up, then that, you know, that sort of takes care of that. But if not, if this is going to be my own thing, then I'm going to have to figure out a way in order to get people in on it. So I mentioned real fast the learning pyramid, which shows the retention rate, which shows how American education is being run. Essentially, your kids are being schooled by a bunch of fascist Nazi enemies that are not really trying to educate your child, because they're only lecturing at them. They're not trying to do any of the things on the bottom. There's no discussion. They're not practicing doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not teaching others. That's what we need to be doing more of. More discussions, more experiences, and more teaching of others. Maslow's hierarchy, 1943, so this has been around for a long ass time, shows what the human needs are. And so before education can happen, before self-actualization can happen, we have to have our food, water, clothing, shelter, we need to be safe, we need to have love and belonging, and then we need to have self-esteem. So, you know, school shouldn't be a separate reality, it should be the reality that we all live in. We come from a community, we come from a family, we go to school, that's the system, that's where we're at, okay? It's not one and separate from the other. The parents are sending their kids to the school so they can do well in the society. So to think that school is only going to be, oh, we're going to just teach you this shit, and who gives a fuck if you actually do anything in life at all, well, that's bullshit, okay? And it almost feels like that's how some of the teachers are. They got a good job, they got a good position, and they don't want you to be educated because they don't want to lose their jobs. But a good teacher or a good superintendent will teach lots of superintendents. They will teach lots of young people to be teachers. The very bottom, you know, retention rate, the highest level of retention rate with the learning pyramid is teaching others. So teachers, if they really want to be smart and they really want their students to learn, they should get their students to start teaching one another. Now, the last power wheel or picture that I have before I get to the ideas, okay, is the power and control wheel. And then there's an equality wheel after that. So this comes from the Women's Crisis Center, and this sort of shows how relationships are supposed to be. Because we are being run by a dictator, and there's the masses, so because there is one boss, one autocrat, one dictator, one totalitarian, fascist, you know, Nazi oppressor, since there's only one oppressor and the rest are masses, the masses don't know how to interact with each other. In fact, there's Franz Fanon says that the masses are going to attack each other because they're all being dehumanized. The entire masses are being dehumanized, and the only way they can get their humanity back is by attacking one another. And so where they won't ever say shit to the massa, they won't ever say shit to the white female that is running the classroom, they will say anything to anybody else in the classroom that might say, you know, give them a slight stink eye or do anything that might be, you know, little. So they learn how to have 100% complete respect for their slave driver, but their fellow students, they got no respect for. So because of power and control, we're not learning how to interact with each other equally. And so what does equality suggest? Well, we'll talk about power and control sort of, the equality would be the opposite of all those, right? So power and control is talking about using force and threats. So this is Julie Chancellor, right? This is the Women's Crisis Center. So these are child beaters. These are tactics that come from child beaters. But it's incredible how these tactics are the same tactics that the teachers in Louisville school systems Spalding University, these are the tactics that they're using, okay? So they're saying using force and threats. Do as I say or I'll get sent you to ISAP. I'm going to call and get security in here, and they're going to pull you out using force and a threat of ISAP in order to get you to comply. Don't listen to me because I got something interesting to say. Listen to me because if you don't, I'll fuck you up. That's Julie Chancellor's motto for life. Using force and threats, making or carrying out threats to do something to hurt her, making threats to leave her, kill yourself, report her to welfare, making her drop charges and making her break laws. Using fear, making her afraid by the way you look, act, and move. Using fear, that's Julie Chancellor, and that's Beverly Keepers, and that's Elizabeth Rogers. You better do as the fuck as we say or we'll ruin your fucking life. We will steal $60,000 away from you. We will use fear. Instead of using our hopes and promises and our dreams like Obama said that we was going to do, instead they're using fear. Do as the fuckers will say or I'll call your parents. Do as the fuckers I say or I'll call security and send you to ISAP. Do as the fuckers I say or I'll lower your grades. I'll take away some benefit or privilege away from you. Right? It's all B.F. Skinner behavioralism. Do as I say or else you're done. And so the punishments and rewards, right? You can give rewards for doing this, or you can punish them if they don't, do what you want. Using fear, making her afraid by the way you look, act, and move, smashing things, destroying things, being mean to the pets, showing off guns and knives. Abusing her feelings, putting her down, making her feel bad about herself. Teachers like to insult people, roll their eyes at you. I've had people roll, you know what I mean? Like Karen Dunnigan rolls her eyes at me. Then you have Julie Chancellor, she insults. Oh, you're a political science major and you don't even know this random crazy Latin phrase? I do know it. You're an asshole, so fuck you. And that's another thing. You think orders, you think the oppressors are right, okay? When the oppressor tells a kid, shut up and sit down. The kid's just supposed to shut up and sit down, right? He's the boss, and they're just supposed to know that they're fucking nobodies and they do as the fuckers are. No, that's bullshit. That's such bullshit. If orders are correct, sit down and shut up. Oh, you're telling me to sit down and shut up? You sit down and shut up. No, sit down and shut up, teacher. Oh, now it's wrong. Now it's wrong. When I say the same words back to them, it's wrong, right? But actually, I just think orders are wrong, right? You're getting in my head and you're telling me to do something that I don't want. I'm sitting there reading, I'm doing my own thing, and now you're coming in here telling me to, get up and line up on the wall. Or if you're Kristen Harris, move from one side of the room to the other side of the room, not for any reasons except for a show of her authority. Do as the fuck as I say, because I'm the boss around here. So that's putting them down, making them feel bad, and the idea of that is you destroy the self-esteem. So if you go back to Maslow's hierarchy, you can control people easier if they don't have self-esteem, if they don't have love and belonging, and safety and physiological. You can use food. You want to eat food. There's a camp in Vermont that I was at, and they would withhold the children's food, even though it's child abuse to do something like that. They would say, if you don't do as we say, we're not going to let you eat. That's child abuse. You can't do that. But a lot of times they do, and they get away with it. So playing mind games, making the person think that they're crazy, calling them names, making her feel guilty, that's abusing their feelings. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of these. Using money to abuse her, being bossy, treating her like your maid, making all the big decisions, acting like the boss all the time, being the one to decide which jobs are for men, which ones are for women, defining male and female relationships, using the kids, making her feel guilty about the kids, denying and blaming, making light of the abuse, not taking her worries seriously, saying the abuse didn't happen, making her be alone, controlling what she does, who she sees, talks to, what she needs, where she goes, limiting her outside activities, using jealousy to prove your actions are okay. Oh, I'm a jealous man. I'm sorry. I just don't want you to talk to your mother. But what I was saying about orders, yeah, you say sit down and shut up. Okay, if orders are okay, then kiss my ass. Oh, you want me to sit down and shut up? Kiss my ass. Kiss my ass, and I'll think about doing what you want. But when I say that again, when I tell you to shut up and sit down, that's completely wrong. Well, what about when I tell you to kiss my ass? Kiss it. Here it is, my ass. You want me to move over to the other side of the room? Fuck you. Kiss my ass. You like orders? Then comply with that order. That's where the fascists are hypocrites, and that's another huge thing about fascists. So they're being bossy. They treat you like, you're the maid, do this, do that, make all the big decisions. I know what's going on, and this is what we're going to talk about. Physical violence, punching, dragging by the hair, using weapon, biting, kicking, sexual violence, degrading, sex, rape, unwanted sexual acts, forcing her to have sex with others. There's Terry Schoon at Spalding University. When she was sitting there telling me how to do a spreadsheet, she's sitting there just rubbing on my leg. Rubbing on my leg. Now, what am I going to do? No, I have to do everything she says, right? It's miserable. It's miserable to just be basically turned off, obedient, compliant, and you don't stand up for yourself. And then when people know that you ain't gonna stand up for yourself, just like the that one theory, that one Abramovic, that woman who did that piece where she just lies on a table and has all these objects on this Rhythm Zero by, I'll say something Abramovic or something like that. It's a weird ass fucking name, but it was called Rhythm Zero. And the lady laid on the table, had about 70-something items on the table, and had a sign saying, "Do whatever you want" to her. And for 6 hours, she wasn't going to move or do anything. People started picking shit up, knives, cutting her throat, drinking the blood, pointing the gun at her, taking her clothes off, and just really, eventually the gun that was being pointed at her, another person takes it out of their hand. And then she goes home and she realized she got a gray hair. So the entire harrowing experience produced a gray hair coming out of her head. But that just shows you when it comes to, that's human nature. So that shows Thomas Hobbes. When you don't stand up for yourself, when you don't show any power for yourself, when you don't know anything about Jean-Jacques Rousseau, people will manipulate you and exploit you for the rest of your life. And that's what some of these educators want. They want you to be submissive and obedient. So if you aren't proud of yourself, and if you don't have any, inside, sort of self-esteem, they will smash it, take it out, manipulate you, manhandle you, and then laugh at you, insult you because, you're not a real person. And everybody can tell that you're not a real person because you're allowing this fucking asshole to degrade you, to insult you, and then once, the oppressor does that, then that gives permission for every other student to treat you like shit because the boss don't like them. So the boss don't like you, then, who gives a shit if I like you? It doesn't matter. It won't hurt me if I'm shitty to you. In fact, it might make me look good in front of the oppressor if I bully you. Shut your mouth. Listen what the boss says. Fuck you. You're going to tell me to shut up? I got, freedom of speech. There's also the Tinker versus Des Moines case where she just wore an armband to protest the war, and that goes all the way to the Supreme Court. So it just shows you how draconian, how totalitarian, just the whole system is totally controlled. If you just have an armband, it doesn't say I'm against the war, it doesn't say shit, just an armband that's white or something, it's got a specific color and a meaning that only you know about, that was illegal in the 70s. Tinker versus Des Moines. So, some of the physical violence things, there's some more peer pressure, threatening to expose someone's weakness, spread rumors, tell malicious lies to an individual, about an individual, to peer groups, isolation, exclusion, sexual coercion, threats, minimize, deny blame, intimidation, using social status, treat her like a servant, treat the kids like servants, making all the important decisions, acting like the master of the castle, being the one who defines women's roles. And anger and emotional abuse, putting them down, making them feel badly about themselves, name-calling, making him or her feel like she is crazy, playing mind games, humiliating him or her, making him or her feel guilty. Now, equality. What equality stands for is the exact opposite of all those things. So whereas you have hierarchy and as one person is controlling the other person, equality says we're cooperative, we're respectful of one another's feelings. We try to, have some sort of compassionate win-win solution. It's not I win, you lose. That's American system. That's the American education system. I win, you lose. I told you what to do, you don't do it, now I fuck up your life. So the things with equality, the characteristics of equality according to the equality wheel, and you can just type in equality wheel or power and control wheel on Google and you'll be able to find your own. But there's negotiation and fairness. They're seeking mutually satisfying resolutions to a conflict, accepting change and being willing to compromise, non-threatening behavior, talking and acting in a way that makes her feel safe and comfortable expressing herself and doing things, right? So this is Julie Chancellor. She's allowed to do it to me because she's a woman, and you're allowed to be as emasculating, and it's not because, it's not everybody, but it's definitely that school system. It's Valley High, and it's Spalding University. So, she did not make me feel safe. All of her behavior was threatening. She was a psychopath. She was shitty. She was, and if she's doing that to grown-ass men, she's definitely she would call boys, right? Black boys. Hey, boy, do this, boy. So respect, listening to her non-judgmentally, valuing her opinions, and being emotionally affirming and understanding. So respect, negotiation, fairness, non-threatening behavior, economic partnership, making money decisions together. This is more for relationships, for intimate relationships, but these are good guidelines for all equal relationships. Shared responsibility, mutually agreeing on a fair distribution of work, making family decisions together, responsible parenting, sharing parental responsibilities, being a positive, nonviolent role model for the children, Honesty and accountability, always being truthful, accepting responsibility for yourself, acknowledging past use of violence, admitting being wrong, and communicating openly and truthfully. So being open, being truthful, and trust and support. This is Paulo Freire. He says all relationships come down to trust. You don't have trust, that relationship don't fucking matter. So it's all about trust. You could trust somebody, right? You can invite them over, talk to them, and know that they're not going to rob the fuck out of you, right? And so trust and support. Supporting her goals in life, respecting her rights to have her own feelings, friends, activities, and opinions. This is what the oppressor, molester professors need to do for the students. They need to support their goals in life, respect their right to have their own feelings, friends, activities, and opinions.